Hi, I'm Bill Corcoran Jr., and I'm your host for the On the Stacks podcast. Today, I'm chatting with United States Air Force First Lieutenant and Nuclear Launch Officer, Devon Redding. What's up, podcast? Episode 73 of the On the Stacks podcast in the Blue Door studio. Welcome to the podcast, Devon.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, all the way from Minot, North Dakota, and 5 stories below ground? You made it here?
Yeah, it's 60 feet approximately. We were talking about that before. I don't really know what a story is, but we assumed it was somewhere between 8 and 12 feet,
Something like that.
So we'll just say 5-6 stories. So
yeah,
I'm all about the specifics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you're from NEPA, and you're home visiting, and before we start, I just have to tell the story because it was kind of funny when a couple months ago you had filled out a form on my website, requesting to come on the podcast, which is super cool. And I'm just going to read it as is,
Sure,
because it makes it so much better.
I'm not going to lie. Remember, I was trying to sell this, and it's
short and sweet.
Go for it.
But you sold it very well. All right. So I get this email. Okay, I haven't spoken to Devon in at least 5 years. All right. So all the email says, I'm reading it word for word: nuclear weapons, life as a nuclear launch officer to the president, leaving Wilkes-Barre to join the military, stuff along those lines. And I get the email, and I'm like, well, that is definitely very interesting. However, part of me thought either this is spam, somebody hijacked Devon's email, or my website. I don't know what's going on. But either way, I got the email, and I'm like, no shit. But also part of me, I knew you were in the military, in the Air Force, but I didn't know what your actual job was, like what you actually did. So that's also why I was like, this can't be real.
Right.
But it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's totally real.
Yeah. So
it's a very real thing.
So how did it all get started?
Sure. How far back do you want to go?
Wherever you want. You were born. When were you born?
Oh, God.
I'm kidding.
Jeez. When a mommy and daddy love each other, Bill.
How are babies made?
How are babies made, right? Yeah. 2010 is when I first joined the military. Let's just kind of give you the basics here. And didn't know what I was going to do, right? So I signed up. I think it was my second pick. Took the ASVAB, and the ASVAB's like an entrance exam to see what jobs you qualify for. And my second pick was like nuclear maintenance, missile maintenance, stuff like that. I can't remember what exact title was, but I got that job going in, and it sounded cool. I remember I had looked up a bunch of the bases we can go, and I was like, oh, Florida and all this stuff. And
all these cool places.
All these cool places I can go. And then this is some random website, military.com or something. I wouldn't say that's random, but it's a legitimate website. But I had done that, and, I got the job I wanted. And then I went to basic training in 2010. It was February 16th, I remember. Got to basic training, did 2 months of basic training, no big deal. Had to go through that whole process. Definitely a game changer in your life, though, I'll tell you that much.
Why?
Just the mental breakdown that you have to go through there. It's not really physically demanding, at least the Air Force portion, especially if you go into it. At the time I was very physically fit. I'd been boxing for a year. Recreationally, and running a lot. I was running like 6-7 miles a day. So I went into it very physically fit. But they really break you down, especially the first 2 weeks, because you're not living at home anymore, right? And they have a lot of 18, 19-year-olds especially. So it was a little easier for me because I had lived on my own a little bit here and there. But they really break you down. And it's to cut bad habits, right? You have these bad habits, and they teach you attention to detail. They teach you like a perseverance mindset, very resilient oriented. So you go through 2 months of that, and then you pretty much figure it out within 2 or 3 weeks. It doesn't take long. And then it's just a process after that. And honestly, it was kind of fun after a while.
Yeah.
My body changed a lot. So I had gained weight, but it was like muscle. I had gained a lot of muscle. My run time didn't actually get better. Surprisingly, even running 6-7 miles a day, I was running less there, and my mile and a half time improved drastically. So they're very focused on that. And then shortly after, Graduated April 16th, I remember. It was actually the same day I married my wife at basic training, so it was really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was a crazy day. We went to San Antonio, Texas. We got to something called Base Liberty, and a lot of stuff had gotten rained out because we were supposed to do a lot of activities, parades. We were supposed to do this running portion where we go run with our unit. All that got canceled. Even our graduation day, we had to do it. We couldn't do the parade because everything got canceled.
Ah, what a bummer.
You say that, but a lot of us were like, we just want to go hang out with our families, you know?
True, yeah.
So we got those opportunities. It was awesome, you know? So we took that. So me, my wife, my dad, my stepmom, and my mother-in-law was there for it. And we went into San Antonio and got married by an actual pastor. We went to the courthouse, thought we were late, and they didn't have any judges available to do it. And they're like, yeah, that's we got a pastor that loves doing military, and we got married. We've been married 11 years now.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was fun. So we did basic training. After that, I went to Vandenberg Air Force Base, which is actually the western range for all of the satellite launches and stuff like that. And that's where actually Elon Musk's a lot of time. He launches from Vandenberg.
Oh, interesting.
Which we'll get to that in a little bit.
All right.
I have some cool stories there.
Cool.
But yeah, we got to Vandenberg. I did 6 months of training there for my job. I got into something called ALCM maintenance. ALCM is air launch cruise missile. It is a nuclear missile. They put the warhead into it, and it goes on the B-52. And the B-52, as you could see, is on the shirt
wearing my B-52 T-shirt.
Yep, and it is a massive, massive airplane. I mean, the thing is humongous. And you heard the cameraman earlier, he was talking about how it goes through canyons and stuff. I didn't know that. But I'm not surprised. I mean, the thing is as big as it is, it's a pretty powerful weapon. And
nimble.
And that thing's like 50 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest aircraft in the Air Force. And they just keep upgrading it. And, I mean, the thing is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But, so I did that. In a short sense, I did ALCM maintenance for 8.5 years. And then I decided to commission. I had finished my degree the year prior, and then I commissioned. I applied to commission, right? And so it's an arduous process. It was very hectic, and even going to school, finishing my degree, married, kid, full-time job. I think I slept an average 4 hours a night.
Wow! It was going to school.
Yeah, it was rough, very rough, but. Yeah, I did it, you know.
Good for you.
And then I applied for commissioning, got it my first try.
What was your degree in?
Homeland Security and Emergency Management.
Okay.
So probably nothing I'll use, but it got me to where I wanted to be. And that was the objective, right?
Where did you want to be?
An officer.
Okay.
In the United States Air Force, man. I just wanted to be an officer. I loved what I was doing. I loved maintenance. Maintenance was a lot of fun. Working on the missile itself. You know, it's
like you're working literally on a nuclear missile.
Yeah. So day to day when we work on the missile, there's no nuke in it. And
okay. All right. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Ah, shit.
Yeah, we're not actually.
So
on those missiles, there's no nukes on it.
Fake missiles.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
There were some people I worked with. They'd say that all the time. They're like, these things are fake. Blah blah blah. And I'm like. Okay, you're ridiculous, because you get some people that are just, pessimistic in whatever career field you're in.
Yeah.
But I just took it with a grain of salt, and I'm like, you're ridiculous. I mean, but anyway, so literally, you can't work on these things, these types of missiles anyways, and they're cruise missiles, which means they get launched out of a B-52, and they drop it from the what's called the bomb bay of the B-52. It drops down, and it takes off, and it heads to whatever we want to kill, It's also called the AGM-86, which is kind of the nomenclature for it, the more official nomenclature. But I did that. I worked in electronics, doing all the testing for it for about 5 years. I was only doing maintenance for like the first 2, and then they moved me to a back shop, which I loved because while the other guys in the hot Louisiana weather at Barksdale Air Force Base were sweating, and it's hot down there. It's so hot. It's like you're like sweating. You're out there an hour and you're just drenched.
Oh man!
And they were working outside trying to pull them in from what they call the igloos. You ever see the igloos?
I don't know.
you watch any movie and they have like the igloo shape.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we keep any munitions and stuff like that. So they'd be out there sweating, and I'm in the cooled environment because electronics have to be cooled at all times. So I'm like doing testing and stuff. I'm loving it. And it was very enjoyable. But during all that time, still working on my degree. I did go full-time to finish it. Finished it, applied, made it the first time. It was awesome. I was so excited. I applied. It was like my third pick, I think, to be an ICBM officer, which is a nuclear launch officer.
Which is what you do now.
Which is what I do now. And I didn't know this at the time, but I think they were so short on ICBM officers. And there's ICBMs have gone through a huge cultural shift that it's awesome now. It's an amazing culture right now. But apparently back in the day, everybody hated being ICBMs.
In your role.
In my role, right.
Okay.
Because you're dealing with nukes, right? And so I don't know if you know about the cheating scandal in 2014. Something to look up maybe on a different time. There's a huge cheating scandal, made national news. There's a lot of different things throughout Air Force's history, and they don't hide it. They're very open. They want the public to know what's going on and stuff like that. And they're amazing with that. But they had to change the culture. So a lot of people still thought the culture was that bad. I was a little nervous going into it and stuff like that. But, I went to, after I got accepted, shortly thereafter, I went to officer basic training over at Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama. And that was I started in June. I think it was June 26th. I graduated August 24th. Do you know what it's like in Alabama in the summer?
Probably a swamp.
It sucks. It sucks. And it's basic training again, right? It's a little different than enlisted basic training, and it's actually more fun if you ask me, because you get to do a lot of cooler stuff, I think. We get to play paintball and stuff like that. It was so much fun. But, man, I was sweating every day. And I remember the last week was terrible because we had our dorms, the heat, the hot water heater broke or something. So we had no hot water the last week. And it's August, man. I'm sweating, and I'm like, a cold shower sounds good, but not that cold.
Yeah.
And I'm dying. I'm like, these showers suck. I just had a miserable last week at officer training school. So, but it was fun overall. So I did that, graduated August 24th. And then literally the day we graduated, I get in the car. My wife, my mother, my stepdad, and my brother and sister were there. And we finish graduation, and literally all right, guys, you're good. Go to your next base. And so me and my wife hop in the car. We stayed in the area that night. And then the next day, my family went to the airport. They flew back to Pennsylvania. Me and my wife started our drive to California again. So we had to go all the way back to Vandenberg, which is in California. We're about, I think, 3 hours north of Los Angeles. So, it's a 7-day trek, according to the Air Force, quote unquote,
Yeah.
their standards. So we made the trek. It was not a bad drive, but literally just went there. We had to stay in a hotel for 10, 11 days until our house was ready. The class I had to start for the actual training of the ICBM career field didn't start until the day I moved into my on-base house. So the same day I started classes, the same day I'm moving into the house, and it was crazy. But I did that for another 6 months, and then we had to drive again. And 6 months later from California to Minot, North Dakota, where I had my first duty station as a nuclear launch officer. So
Below ground.
Yeah. It's not like I'm below ground day to day. It's not like I live below ground. Although
You don't? I thought you were in a cave.
I'm a mole rat, maybe.
Okay.
No, it's a lot of fun. But we kind of live out there because we're out there for a week at a time. And that's just due to the nature. This all happened because of COVID, really. We had to change the dynamic up of how we send people out to the careers or out to the field and stuff like that. But day to day, I live on base, and we have our house on base. We live great neighborhood, and when I'm not on alert, which is, we call it alert when we're down below and we're actively doing our job, we call it alert. So we do that. Alert just is what it sounds like. We're awake.
Yeah, I was gonna say, take me through it. So
Okay.
All right. So you're 6 stories, 12 stories, 100 stories below ground, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're 1,500 stories below ground, so good luck getting to us.
Yeah, tight security.
Tight security, yeah. No, security's really good there, but and it's old, but it's very good. So day to day, so I kind of take you through the process. So, we'll come in the morning, the day we're supposed to go out to the field, or we'll come in at whatever designated time we designate. We'll do through our briefings. Hey, what's going on this week? And it's very invasive and very specific. We check the weather. For the week, we talk to the maintenance guys. We're talking to everybody. And I really see a lot of the officership there because there's a lot of leading. Hey, what's going on? What are we expecting to see? We talk to, we have a department called, an agency called Plans, and Plans tells us if there's any more classified information going on, stuff like that, and we need to know. We'll get intel briefs, stuff like that. What's going on in the world? It's really cool. Usually it's very basic. To us, it's like nothing. But anybody
to
else,
everyone else, it's probably super interesting.
It is super interesting.
And let's be careful here. I don't want to ask any questions and have Department of Homeland Security come and shutting me down.
It wouldn't
here,
be DHS. It'd probably be somebody else.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. I'm not going to get into any of that, and I'll just tell you if there's anything.
Yeah, all good.
But we get all these briefings, and we'll get anything we have to take out to the field with us, right? So we'll take, and then we come back together, and it's just like working with your buddies at a restaurant. You're just talking, you're having a good time, you're talking about what you got to do for the day. But really, I worked at Red Robin for 5 years over in wilkes-barre, from like 05 to 09, and the conversations are very similar, believe it or not. Nothing changes.
Even as serious as a job that you're doing.
Yeah, well, yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're still going to go home. You're still a regular person. You're talking about with these people, your families, what's going on in your family life, even when we're at work, But anyway, so we do our mission and planning, we call it. And when we finish that up, we grab whatever resources we need to grab, and we head out to whatever site. So in the whole career field, there's 3 bases. There's Malmstrom Air Force Base. There's F.E. Warren Air Force Base. Malmstrom is in Montana, Great Falls, Montana. Cheyenne, Wyoming is F.E. Warren Air Force Base, which is right on the border of Colorado. I live in Minot Air Force Base, which is Minot, North Dakota, 30 minutes from the Canadian border. Yay! Super cold, by the way.
Yeah.
During the winters, it gets pretty brutal there, and the wind is ridiculous.
Because there's no mountains, it's all just flat.
It's just flat, man. It's so flat. And even the day we came here, we flew at 7 o'clock at night that night, I remember. But the morning at 2 in the morning, I woke up, and it was like 60, 70 knot winds, which is, I think, like 40 mile per hour winds. It's crazy. And we get these gusts of winds that are ridiculous, like hurricane.
Wow.
Coming from Canada, mostly from Canada. But you'll wake up to it, and you're like, you'll see trampolines in the neighborhoods just flying. Yeah, it's so funny to watch. Oh my gosh, people have to
strap everything down.
Strap everything down on those nights.
It's crazy.
Trash cans. If it's trash night, don't put your trash out, because your trash can will be lost in the neighborhood somewhere. You'll have to go you'll find
Steal
a
your
pile
neighbors.
of them. Yeah, you'll find a pile of them. You just got to go grab a trash can, take it back to your house.
Find the best looking one.
Yep. Oh, this one's not broken. I'm taking this one. Is that my trash? No, but that's okay.
Scratch off your neighbor's name off.
Yeah. Thankfully, I don't put names on it. So we go out to the field. We'll go to the site, and there'll be another crew downstairs. And then we'll give them a call and say, hey, man, do you need anything? We'll get all our stuff onto the site. We'll put all our stuff in our rooms. So we have it's like a little building, it's a little facility, and we've got our cops out there. Sometimes we have maintainers, usually not, because they like to go home. And then we'll always have 2 crews out there at all times, because we can only spend 24 hours downstairs at a time. And I'll get into the physiological aspect of that too, because there's actually some science, some crazy science.
Oh, like psychologically.
So physiologically, psychologically.
Physically, you said that.
Yeah, both. But you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that too. But so we'll go downstairs. We'll do something called a changeover, where we'll just check all the docs. We'll check all the classified and various other things, and we'll talk about what's going on. Hey, what's going on in the field right now? Because although we're not doing the maintenance, we have to kind of not oversee the maintenance, but we need to know what's going on in our field at all times.
And what does the field mean? Are those the missiles?
Yeah. So I started talking about the bases. So I'm going to break it down for you. So there's 3 bases. I told you those 3 bases. After those bases, so the Air Force has, approximately 450 nuclear ICBMs. There's 150 at each base. Now let's break that down even further. Each base has 3 squadrons. A squadron is just, we'll call it a unit, right? I'm going to try to keep it as layman as possible.
A gang.
Yeah, a gang. Yeah, let's call them a gang, a posse.
Yeah.
So each wing, right? So you have your base. The base has a wing. There's 3 wings in total across the whole missile complex, which is all 3 bases. Each wing has 3 squadrons, and each squadron will
50
have
missiles each.
50 missiles.
Jeez.
Wow, you're a mathematical genius.
I've been practicing.
It's hereditary.
Thank you.
I could tell.
Yeah.
Your dad is a mathematical genius. But one launch control center is where I work, and we each own 10 of those, right? So one launch control center will take care of that. You'll have 2 people down in each one. All right. So we get on alert. We go downstairs. We change over. We call it a changeover. The other crew goes topside. They're done. They go home. Yay. They've been out there for a week. And then we'll do our job. And that literally, for the most part, means just sitting down watching TV.
So you're not like on edge all day.
No.
It's not.
No. We have to maintain the capsule. The job itself is deterrence. That's what our nukes are for, right? Like the Air Force is, I can't say too much about the Air Force's view on things, but that is the job, deterrence. The fact that we even have these massive weapons of destruction is to keep our enemies at bay. Like, don't mess with us, or else you're gonna get stung, right? And our stinger
stung. I think stung is an understatement.
It's an understatement.
but I like it. Stung.
I like to humble when I can.
Yeah.
Otherwise, my head can't fit through the door.
Yeah.
So we have these weapons of mass destruction. We take it very seriously when we're working. You know what I mean? And so day to day, we're sitting there. We'll get calls from maintenance. We're talking to them all day. We're doing all that stuff. And there's other aspects of our job, and most of it's pretty boring, honestly. And some of it I can't get into too much. But at the same time, what I relish in is when I go out with someone. All right, so we can go out with anybody. We can go out with, as long as, another ICBM officer. So we'll go out with these guys, and it could be a boy or girl. Doesn't matter. They have no rules there. Just, we're professionals, right? So we're out there, and the conversations, you get some really deep, intimate conversations, some really good, and you're out there a week with someone. It's just you two.
It's just the 2 of you.
It's just the 2 of you down there.
When you say down there, like how big is this space?
Okay, so it's like an airplane, but a small section of the airplane.
Okay.
So actually,
it's almost like a cockpit, but maybe a little bit bigger than a cockpit.
It'd be like first class plus the cockpit.
Okay.
All the way up to the cockpit.
All right, so it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, of a like a Boeing, not a 747, I would say, but like one of the smaller versions, like a medium version, I guess. Okay. I don't really know planes that well. That's why I work underground.
Yeah, you just press buttons.
I press buttons, yes. Phone lines. But actually, Boeing is the one who developed these. So they made it into look like it feels. Oh, wow. And when you go into, it's called a capsule because if you look at it, it looks like a pill. And what happens is you go into it, and it's literally like this big room, but you go into something that looks like a shipping container, like one of those big, they call them potatoes, I think, if I remember correctly. But it's a big shipping container, and you're actually above the ground. You're not touching the ground at all, so you're actually floating. And there's these huge chains, 4 of them, one on each corner, that are attached to the ceiling. and those are they're called shock isolators, and they're meant to keep us alive, and we can jump around if we get hit with something called a near miss of a nuclear weapon. So if a nuclear weapon, somebody shot at us and it hits somewhere close by, we'll get the shock wave of it, right? And we'll bounce around like crazy. And we actually have seatbelts.
Headgear.
Well, actually, we do have headgear. We have just regular helmets, like construction workers have. But we actually have seatbelts too.
Wow.
So if we ever hey,
incoming, strap in.
Yep, that's what they would do.
Wow.
And so we have these seatbelts to help us survive so that we can respond in kind if we needed to.
That's crazy.
Isn't it crazy?
That is.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, we hope it never happens. But
I was going to say, speaking of that, what's worst case scenario? What happens?
What do you mean?
You get a call. You get a call, right? And then you're told to...
Well, it wouldn't be a call.
Okay. How does it go?
It would be a message. So
Okay.
everything is classified when it comes in. We have different ways of doing it. We have redundant communication systems. We'd have to make sure it is a legitimate message. There's a lot of little things that go into it. And it's a nuclear surety thing because we don't want somebody creating an opportunity to make a bad decision. Now, a capsule can't just go rogue. It is impossible. There's a lot of things that have to happen at the higher level for us to be able to initiate anything, and it would never happen. And then after that, because we're officers, we have to do something called authenticate. We have to authenticate nuclear orders, and only officers can do that. It is like a DoD policy or something like that. I haven't actually seen how they work that out, but
Okay.
But literally that is it. So you have to be an officer to authenticate a nuclear order from the President of the United States. And that's why I sent you that message, because I'm glorifying it a little bit when I sent it to you.
Yeah, no,
that
it's
email.
No, but it's still it's a real serious thing, man.
Yeah, it's super serious. Yeah, and we take it very seriously. There's no doubt about it. As much as we like to have fun at work,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, whenever we get a message or we're getting calls from maintenance and stuff like that, anything like that, our game face goes on. And it's kind of like a bipolar thing at times.
Yeah, it's like a flip a light switch.
Yeah, you have to, and you have to become the leader, the officer, in those moments. Which day to day, it's very casual. It's professional, but they're very easy conversations to have. So we talk to the guys, and then you turn the phone off, and then you go back to your buddy, whoever you're talking to on alert with, and you're like, all right, so what movie do you want to watch? Let's get into this show,
Yeah.
And
Or I got one for you. You ready for this?
What's that?
Let's listen to the On the Stacks podcast.
Oh gosh.
Can you tune in down there?
Oh gosh, I can't wait till
you're 10,000 stories below ground.
Yeah, I'm so nervous because after this, I know a couple people are like, oh, let me know, let me hear it when you're done, and I'm like, okay. I'm so nervous.
So people are asking, they're ready for it.
Yeah, they're super ready for it.
Cool.
So I remember telling my commander about it. He's a lieutenant colonel, and I was telling him, hey, I'm doing this podcast when I go back home to visit my family. And he was surprised. He's like, really? I was like, yeah. He's like, did you talk to public affairs? Yeah.
So legitimately, you had to run this by them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So they know everything about me.
No, they don't know anything. Well, I told them. So what I told them.
Told
that
them
it was
a bunch
of
lies.
Yeah,
No, I'm kidding.
No, I told him it was a hometown podcast. I said it was growing because I've seen what you've been doing, and I was like, man, this is awesome.
Thank you.
But I told him it was a growing podcast, and but I said it was a hometown one, and it was somebody I knew from high school and through friendships and stuff like that, and I said, but they're not national or anything like that. Okay, good, because I think if it was something nationally, they would. Public affairs be like, okay, you might want to be a colonel for that or higher, because it is precedent upon rank and stuff like that. So I have to be careful on that side. But I told him, I'm very open about all this. And then he's like, did you talk to our security manager? I was like, no, not yet, but I'll go and mention it to her. So she told me if I screwed anything up to let her know immediately.
Immediately, yeah.
Immediately, literally immediately. So. But that just informs the public that there is a process to what we do. and it's not like, hey, the president's not like calling me on my
like,
cell.
yo, Devin, press that button.
Yo, press that button. And by the way, it's not a button.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's a button. No.
There's way more to it, probably.
Yeah, well, it's a key. It's a key, and then there's something called cooperative launch switches, and 2 people have to turn those at the same time. So I'll have so I'm a crew commander, so I'm the one who runs the capsule, and then I'll have a deputy with me. However, I'm out with somebody senior to me, they'll usually be the crew commander. But now I'm a crew commander, so my deputy will be sitting usually to the right of me in his chair, and if we ever had to launch, we'd have to put our hands on the keys and
Simultaneously
at the exact same time, and then we'd have to turn the keys and watch all the commands go through, and other capsules would be doing the same thing, and we'd be like, okay, so we joke about it sometimes in a sense that you're sitting there and we're like, what if we ever did do this, and I'd be talking to the other guy and he's like, yeah, I don't know what I'd do, and I'd be like, well, let's practice, kind of like pretend we're doing it. So we'd like pretend turn the switches, and then we'd like sit back, be like, okay, what's on Netflix? Cause like we're done.
Yeah.
Like the job is done, and we'd be done. Like, there's other things we'd have to do afterwards, and stuff like that. But in a sense, that's the job, and day to day, we are constantly making sure nothing's breaking. If things are breaking, we get, so we're connected. The launch control centers are connected to obviously all the launch facilities out there. And we'll know if something breaks. We'll know if somebody's trying to get in through various means. If somebody just goes onto the site where it's underground, we'll know because we'll get alarms. If somebody tries to break in underground, we'll know. We know if there's an earthquake in Canada, Mexico, Tijuana, we'll know.
That's crazy.
Because we have signals from that. I mean, the security is amazing on these things. It is crazy. And it's a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is really cool.
Wow.
So funny story about that. So when I got picked up, at the time I worked with a guy who was kind of a conspiracy theorist. He was one of my supervisors he was my supervisor at the time. And he loves conspiracy theories. He loves to watch them and stuff like that. And he was talking about UFOs in the career field. Or UFOs in the nuclear field. And there had been some documentaries on this stuff. And I didn't know how legitimate it was. So I was just curious. So I'm not one to fall into those traps. I'm not one to jump on conspiracy theories. Although I've seen some be proven correct in the past.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes so arbitrary you just can't get into it. But UFOs is a very interesting subject and I don't say, I'm not the guy who says UFOs are aliens, because UFO is literally an unidentified flying object, right? So it could be various things.
Yeah,
right?
Anything.
Like a hot air weather balloon, as it typically is.
Technically a UFO.
Yeah, exactly. Until it's identified, right? So he was telling me about it, and there was I can't remember the guy's name, but he was former Air Force guy. He worked in the nuclear field. I don't think he was an ICBM officer, but when he got out, he got into interviewing people who had seen UFOs in the nuclear fields and stuff like that. ICBM officers that were retired, that seen weird things and stuff like that. And it seemed legitimate. This guy I've watched his interviews and stuff. He had a good head on his shoulder, and he would talk about, he'd go and find the legitimacy of the people he was interviewing. He'd take his notes and stuff like that. He wouldn't have the interview if they seemed like a cuckoo bird. And so it was really funny. There was a guy that worked at Barksdale at the time. He was a captain, prior enlisted guy. And he was in the career field previously before he got to Barksdale. And I got hooked up with him so I can start asking him a lot of questions, just get to know him. So we went to lunch the one day, and I'm sitting down with him. Start the conversation. Me, I'm pretty good at conversations at this point. And I asked him the question because I was just like, I have to know. And so I look at him and I said, look, and I had to approach it how do you approach something like that? Look, have you ever seen a UFO in the Caribbean? What can you tell me about that? And he looks at me, and then he looks down, and he literally takes about 60 seconds to answer the question. And he just totally goes, well, here's what I could tell you. sometimes there'll be an earthquake in Canada or Mexico, and we'll know about it. And that was his response.
That's it.
That was it.
That's it.
And I was like, okay. Like, I shut the conversation down on that portion I was like, all right, there's something weird there. And by the way, I've never seen anything weird.
I was gonna say where have you seen
everybody's
UFOs?
so curious at this point.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what's he gonna say? Is there UFOs? Probing? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
No. So it was just a funny tangent there that I enjoy. Because it was a funny conversation. After that, it was it was a very fun conversation I had with him, and he was a very nice guy, very smart guy. Obviously, outranked me by a lot, but anyways, so but yeah, we'll go on alert day to day. And a lot of times when we're down there, a lot of guys work on their masters because they're sitting down there, they're not doing too much. They could be studying the job, which is what we do a lot. We have documents and stuff down there. We can look over the overarching of how the Air Force and ICBM field works, stuff like that. So they expect us to know a lot. There's a lot that goes into this job. Most of it is actually, not most of it, a good portion of it is very classified. So we can't do these studies at home. So we have to do them on alert, or we have to come into the office and go into what we call the vault and do a lot of this studying.
So there's no work from home for you guys?
No, there's work from home. So actual work, yes.
Yeah. But no study from home.
No. Well, there's a lot we could do from home. But I mean, when I'm home, man. I'm not studying at home. I can't do it because I got kids and my wife, and they're like, they want daddy when he's home, and you got to leave things at the door in this career field because it takes up a lot of your time. It really does, especially with more responsibilities. It really does. I mean, some people work 12, 16-hour days. I've seen it, especially if you're in a leadership position, and it's crazy. I mean, they're working their butts off, and I see it, here and there, and they've got their higher stressors, in my opinion, because their leadership, could be generals and stuff like that, and they're like, hey, what's going on with this, and why am I hearing about this? And sometimes they get information before their subordinates do, and the subordinate's like, how do you know that and I don't? And I'm like, stuff like that happens. But I've been pretty lucky. Our leadership's been pretty awesome. Squadron commander's awesome. The people that I work with that are leadership are just, I've been pretty lucky, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone in particular that's really like helped you out or mentored you or?
Most of my mentorship that I get comes from peers or my direct supervisors. I get a lot of that. Over the past few years, I wouldn't say I've had any crazy my flight commander was a really good mentor. My last one.
Can you give them a shout out, or is their name classified?
No, his name's Justin.
Okay. Shout out to Justin.
Shout out to Justin
because he's gonna be listening, right?
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
You better.
I'm gonna send him in a text, and I'm gonna say, listen to this. And we had a great relationship with me and him because. I'm older, and a lot of our lieutenants are anywhere from 22 to 25 years old, and I'm 34. So it's interesting dynamics.
You're
sometimes.
like dad.
I am. Well, they call me grandpa sometimes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Even worse.
Yeah. They gave me it's a funny story. So when you upgrade to crew commander, I don't know. You ever see Top Gun?
Yeah.
So Maverick and Goose, those are call signs. So the piloting world has something called call signs. ICBMs have adopted that culture over the years, and now when you upgrade to crew commander, you get a call sign. And I got one because I upgraded, and mine's Dory.
Dory?
Yeah.
Are you for real?
Yep. I'm super furious. I have like short-term memory loss or something.
Yeah.
And there was a funny story about it. So we were doing something at work the one time, and we have something called the party line. Because we have so our phones are rotary,
Wow.
like
That old.
So it's a rotary. It's internal, but you can hear it. So if I dial a phone number, you'll hear the clicks, and you're like, oh my gosh! So I can't call like Verizon and press 1.
Yeah.
I'm like, I did it the one time. I was pressing 1, and it just kept clicking, and I'm like, okay, I'm not getting through. Anyways, so the one time we were doing something on this party line, and the party line, all it is just a phone line that we could talk to the other capsules. You don't have to ring them. You could just punch into the line, and everybody can come up at the same time and just start talking. So it's not like a regular phone line. Anyways, so we're doing something that we have to do as a squadron. It's a procedure we have to do, and we're doing this as a squadron. And we always, for this procedure, we always get the new people to do it because, you know, they're new and we want them to get integrated into some of these procedures that we have to do. And so we had the new girl do it. And she's doing it and stuff like that. And at the end of it, I thought she did a good job, you know, because, you know, everything's laid out perfectly in what we call technical orders or TOs. And that's how we do our job. Everything's in there. And so she's reading out, she's going through it, and we're doing everything together. And she does a pretty good job, you know, a couple stumbles here and there. But, I mean, we're all doing it as a squadron. So, you know, we pick each other up. And, you know, first time sometimes can be a little nerve-wracking. And she, at the end of it, I go, "Hey, you are an asset to the Air Force. Great job." And I'm semi-sarcastic about it and stuff like that. And by the way, like I said, I go out with these people. So in mission planning day, I see all of them. So I know what they look like. Well, my brain doesn't register that because like 5 or 6 months down the road, we come in before alert again, and day of mission planning, I come into the office and I go into the mission planning room, and she walks in, and I thought she was brand new, like I'd never seen her before. And I said, "Oh, hey, I'm, you know, Lieutenant Redding, and welcome." And I was being sincere in this moment, and I said, "I'm Lieutenant Redding, and welcome to the squadron. You must be new, all this stuff." And she goes, "Devon, you've known me for 5 or 6 months. You even told me I did a great job and I was an asset to the Air Force." And I was like, "I did?" She's like, "You don't remember?" And I was, no. So I was like, "Oh, I'm such an a-hole." so I felt so bad. So when they had to come up with names, she told that story, call sign night, which is just a big party event that we do. And, you know, we have something called a grog. And if you have to tell a story, you drink from the grog. We have an alcoholic, non-alcoholic grog. And she told the story, and everybody just went nuts. And they're like, Dory!
Dory.
Yeah. And at one point, there's different aspects of call sign night where you can try to get rid of there's, you know, everybody just shouts names out over time, and it collects names, and then there's opportunities for me to get rid of names. And at one point, I was like, I want to get rid of Dory because I had the opportunity to. And my squadron commander's like, "No." And when he says no, it's the rules, man. It's the rules. So I was
That's
like,
hilarious.
I was like, oh crap. So I ended up getting Dory. So
you're stuck with Dory.
Yeah, I adopted it though, man. I like it.
All right.
You know, it's unique, and I like unique stuff, and you know, it's identifiable, and it definitely holds true.
Yeah.
I'm definitely Dory. Because my short-term memory sucks sometimes.
You are a Dory, from what I remember.
Yeah. My wife will say, "Hey, Devon," or like even today, actually, I'm staying with my mother-in-law right now, and her family, and me and my wife and the kids are at the house, and my mother-in-law goes, "Hey, Devon, can you go upstairs and get my phone? It's on the bedside table." I said, "Yeah, sure." And at the time, I was like, okay, I got to grab a few other things upstairs. So I get upstairs, and I grab a few other things, come back downstairs, go take care of what I got to take care of, go back upstairs, grab a few more things, come back downstairs, go back upstairs. I'm getting ready for the day. And then my wife comes upstairs, and she goes, "Yeah, Mom said that you were supposed to grab a phone for her, so I'm going to go grab it." And I was like, "Oh, crap. I meant to grab that." And but that's like me all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely losing my mind sometimes. Yeah. Like I said,
very fitting.
Yeah. It's fun though. It's fun.
That's good.
So
what was that? Earlier you mentioned the Elon Musk story.
Yeah, man. So Vandenberg, right? So I've been in tech school there 3 times. The first time was back in 2010. And obviously, SpaceX was a thing then, I believe, if I remember correctly, but it wasn't what it is
like
today,
it is now, yeah.
right? It's such a big thing. And there's, you know, from what I remember, there's really only 2 places to launch from. There's like, I think, Cape Canaveral, Florida, on the eastern range in Florida, where we launch satellites. And then the western range is held by Vandenberg. And so I was there for 6 months for school, because that's where missile maintenance and anything missile or ICBM is trained. And so I did that for the enlisted, and then I went back a couple years later for a back shop job that I got in electronics. I had to go there for 2 months, and then I had to go back again for ICBM training as an officer. Well, when I was out there, at the time, Elon Musk had in SpaceX, had created the first ever first stage reentry system come back down to Earth. And whenever these launches happen, you'll see families that are on Vandenberg Air Force Base go out towards the beach because the launch centers that they launch them from, you can see them very clearly. And a lot of people have, binoculars and stuff like that. But at the same time, I mean, it'll be 8, 9 o'clock at night. It'll be dark, and you'll just see people grilling, not camping, but grilling. You can only go to a certain point because they shut, a certain portion down in case there was ever an accident. So, but trucks, cars just lined up like crazy. Everybody from the base is pretty much there, and you're just watching. And so I'm sitting there, and I've got my son with me, and me and my wife, and we're sitting in the back of my truck, just in the bed of the truck. And we got to see the first ever first stage reentry system come back down to Earth. And
that's cool.
So it took off, right? And it went up, and we got to see, I mean, you could see it. It was a clear night, beautiful night. And I remember it coming back down, but you can't really tell because it's so high up. But when it started to, and you could kind of tell that it was coming back down, it feels like it's coming right at you.
Really?
Yeah, it felt like it. And I was like, at one point, I was like, should we go?
Like how far away were you from
the actual launch site? Oh, miles.
But you can feel it?
No, well, you can kind of feel like, so when it takes off and it has the boom and stuff, you can kind of feel the wind a little bit, but you're pretty far. I mean, it's a safety thing. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. But yeah, I mean, you can kind of feel it, and especially the boom that goes with it. Oh my gosh, it's so loud. Doesn't matter how far away you are, man. That thing is loud. Anyway, so we saw it come back down, and when it landed, it made an even louder boom, and it scared the crap out of me. I almost lost it. I almost fell out of the truck. I was like, "Whoa! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!" But I kept trying to. At the time, I was trying to get my son to pay attention to what was going on because I'm like, Colby, this is a people in the world don't get to see stuff like this. This is an opportunity for you to experience it.
Yeah,
even if
most people
once.
won't.
Yeah, and even if it's just once. But he's like 3 years old, so he's not going to remember. Yeah. But here's me, Dad. I'm trying to get my son
Mini Dory.
Yeah, Mini Dory, right? Yeah. So he's absolutely adorable kid. But yeah, so we got to see that. That was really cool. In Vandenberg, I think it was 2012 when I went back the second time for school. It was 12 or 13. It's been so long, I don't remember. But I got to get a tour of a satellite launch satellite launch center. And at the time, they had, I think, a Delta IV rocket in it, just shipping stuff up probably to International Space Station. I don't really remember why I was there, but that's what I presume. But we got to go, and I mean, that thing is massive. I mean, we got to go up, and at one point, we're like 14 or 15 stories up, and they took us out onto a catwalk. And literally, it's just this metal bars on each side on this catwalk. And nothing, and they're kind of moving a lot, and we're walking on this catwalk and there's nothing below you.
Oh my God.
And these engineers that work on this thing, I mean, their hazard pay must be ridiculous because they literally have to go and hang off. So they'll be strapped, with some cargo straps of some sort, the safety straps, and they'll have to go to different hooks that are on the platform and stuff like that and just hang. And then there was a section we got to, and it was just I want to say by 6x6 or 4x4 square. And in this square, it's just a grate. And I'm talking like a drain grate. And you can walk on it with no safety harness, and you're looking 15 stories down below your feet. And you're going to lose your stuff. And I wouldn't do it.
No,
there was a couple guys.
Neither.
Yeah,
Nope.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't walk on it. I'm actually kind of afraid of heights. I'll jump out of an airplane, no problem. But ask me to climb up a 20-foot ladder without some sort of feeling of security, I'm shaking a little. And I'll prove it. I'll jump out of any airplane. I love it. I've done it twice already. So, but yeah, and there I remember there was a couple guys that did it. I wouldn't do it, and then there was one guy who was having trouble just on the catwalk. I was fine on the catwalk, but there was one guy who was holding on for dear life on the catwalk and those flex of those bars and stuff that were movable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the ones too that it felt like you could just literally pick it up and take it off, like, and there would be nothing. You know,
It's a little scary.
Yeah, it's a little scary, but I mean, and there's engineers that, you know, and they work on the rocket.
I think they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they know what they're doing, and
Yeah.
they're apparently not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that was a really cool experience I've got to experience. Had a few other cool experiences. Some tours I got to do because of my job. Got to tour some plants for Boeing with certain parts of our missile weapon system. Got to go to Boeing for that. Got some awesome intel briefs in the past. I got to go to NASIC, which is the main intelligence hub over at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. I got to go check out the museum for the first time in Ohio, which is basically the Smithsonian of Air Force. I mean, it has every single Air Force plane ever existed is in that museum, and it is an actual airplane. So they have every airplane. I mean, they're all gutted, but there's like one hangar alone with every single plane that's ever been in the Air Force, Army Air Corps, the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
Yeah, and that Army Air Corps was what Air Force was prior to the Air Force standing up back in, I think, 1949, if I remember correctly. Something you could look up later if you want, but
Yeah.
it was about the time Geneva Convention came out. But yeah, and then there's another hangar with every single one of our missiles in it, and you go into there and you look over the generations of ICBMs, and you just look up and you're like, oh my god, it's crazy. It's huge, like 50, 60 feet, man.
Yeah.
And then some of them are bulkier than others because they used to carry like multiple nuclear warheads, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And then you go down further. I mean, and it seemed like everything else was irrelevant at that point when you see ICBMs, like real ones, and you get to see them from the bottom to the top. We can't even see the top because you have to go upstairs to even see midway. But it was so much fun.
Had some cool experiences.
Yeah, you get to see some cool things. Yeah, the world is world's a scary place. I'll tell you that much right now. And I'm very thankful that we have these things. I'm not gonna lie. They're definitely relevant. Read some articles where people oppose that, but I'm telling you, they're very relevant. I'm telling you right now, there's not one missileer. We call ourselves missileers as a whole. There's not one missileer that ever wants to launch these things, but if we were ever asked to and told to, we wouldn't miss a beat. Our guys are ready and primed, but they don't want to.
Yeah.
But they will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say is like the thing you learned the most from, being here? You're still active, but I mean, what would you say you learned the most from being in the military?
So there's a mindset. I would say there's a very I wouldn't say strict mindset, but you learn how to be a team player big time. You learn how to get through the grind, right? The Air Force is very active in operations. So a B-50, for example, a B-52 has to fly, right? But for that thing to fly requires a lot. Requires maintainers, fuelers, ground equipment, ICBMs, constant maintenance on those things. They're super old. They're very reliable. Don't get me wrong. They are very reliable, but a lot of maintainers. Security alone is ridiculous. I mean, cops like crazy, security forces, what we call them, guys with some heavy guns. I mean, they'll go out to a site and they'll be locked and loaded. If we ever have to open one up if we ever have to open the launch tube. So I sent you that video, but you should. There's a couple good ones out there that shows you how it kind of comes out of the tube, and they're legitimate. So, if they ever have to open up that thing, I mean, they'll put a truck over it, they'll cover it, and then they'll do whatever they got to do. But nobody could see what they're doing, and it's crazy because these sites are so inconspicuous. I mean, they're all over the North, Midwest, right? And you'll drive by one, not even know it's a nuclear warhead underneath.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's so inconspicuous. There's a couple of good YouTube videos of interviews and stuff of like MSNBC, I think, did one, or CNBC. I don't remember which news agency, but they actually took a reporter out there took her down into a capsule, flew over some sites. They don't take anybody into actual launch facilities. They will never do that unless it's like somebody from, the government.
Or the On the Stacks podcast.
Or on the Stacks podcast. Actually, I could take you to a launch control
I was
center.
going to say, when you have me out.
Yeah. COVID kind of changed a lot of that. But it's funny because we could take like family down there and stuff, friends and stuff like that, down to the control centers. It's very secure, even with you down there. You can't do anything, even if you tried. But they'll do a very comprehensive background check on you before they even let you near it.
Yeah, I would think so.
And then you have to be escorted everywhere. But once you get into the capsule, we can show you what we do day to day. If you ever end up at Minot or even, whatever these sites, I can probably get you down there. You can look down. I had my mother-in-law down there once. I had my wife down there and my son, which was not fun. But he was trying to like touch everything, and we're like, no, don't do that, because we
don't turn that key.
Yeah, don't turn that button, right? Or press that button. But I've given a lot of tours down there. I've had every time 4 stars constantly coming out to site. I remember the one time I had set up a tour recently, and I had a guy that I used to work with, which I'll get into that story. It's a pretty good story too. But a guy I used to work with, he was my supervisor at one point, and where his agency that he works for is a test agency, and they were coming up to Minot, and I got them hooked up because they had never been in a capsule before. So I was like, yeah, I'll hook you up. Well, the day I set it for, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, which is the highest ranking Air Force active duty member, 4-star general, at the last second said, hey, we're coming out and we're going to go to the site. So everything like kind of shut down.
Canceled.
We had to cancel everything. There's ways we could have, I could have done things to make it work, but it was kind of late for that, and, we're just going to make it work. So we're like, hey, we got to postpone this till next time you're up there. So yeah, we had to shut that down. It sucked because I really want to get, but my buddy, who was my supervisor when I was enlisted, so I don't know if you know anything about not the cheating scandal, but the Air Force accidentally sent nukes from Minot to Barksdale, which was a bad thing. And it's on CNN. I mean, you could look up so much information on it. It's crazy. He was the one who found it that day, and he was the one who looked up into the missile and he gives it like the 3 look, to make sure that he wasn't going crazy when he looked up into the bomb bay of the missile.
So what happened?
Okay. All right. So basically, in a nutshell, Minot Air Force Base has the AGM-86. I told you about the Alcom that I used to work on. But nuclear warheads, the actual warheads, are up at Minot. They had accidentally, the B-52 accidentally flew 6 of them to Barksdale, which was a big deal. But the problem was that they didn't identify that it was on the hangar for like 2 days or a day or 2. I can't remember the exact amount of time. And I mean, it's all over the news, and you can look all this up. It's all legitimate.
So this isn't classified, people.
Yeah, it's unclassified. So I mean, this was public. I mean, it was all over. And apparently, a lot of people gotten fired for this. So a lot of leadership did, and it was very unfortunate because I'm sure a lot of them were very good leadership. It's just sometimes it's circumstantial. But at the same time, I don't really know how all that played out. But he was the one. So he was in my job. So he's the guy who had to go out to the flight line with some other guys and go. And they thought they were trainers, right? Which we do a lot of that. We'll send trainers up to Minot. Minot will send trainers to us. And they'll have trainer warheads on them. And it'll say trainer or something that identifies it as a inert warhead.
A dud.
Yeah. It's something that's not real.
Yeah.
And so he went out there like a day or 2 later, or it was like that. I don't remember the time frame, but it was enough to where security wasn't out there. And he came to our squadron recently because he was up at Minot, and he came to tell the squadron about it. And like my leadership was so excited. They like really wanted to hear this guy talk because he got to experience one of the biggest incidents to especially protocols, right? That the Air Force ever had to go through. Anyway, so he he just did the 3-look. He goes out and they have to do something called a safety inspection. Make sure there's no fuel leaks on these missiles and stuff. Make sure there's no warhead because that was part of it. And then they have to make sure it's not armed, stuff like that. But for trainers, it's very basic. It's because there's no fuel in them, depending on what it is, there won't be all that stuff. So it's a very basic overview. So he goes up there and he looks at it and he goes, huh, that's weird. Okay. And he looks down and he looks back up again. He said he looked like, a few times to make sure he wasn't going crazy. And then he asked his supervisor at the time to come over and take a look. And his supervisor goes, yeah, that's a nuclear warhead.
Those are live warheads.
That's a live warhead. And then it just, he said at the time at Barksdale, it's called Hoban Hall, is all the way down at the end of the flight line. And there was a ALS graduation, which is Airman Leadership School. So when you go from a senior airman to a staff sergeant, that's a supervisory role. It's a very big deal in the Air Force. So when you upgrade, a rank up, you have to go through something called the Airman Leadership School to learn how to be a supervisor and to lead from frontline supervisor perspective. Well, leadership loves it too, and they love to go to these ceremonies, and they get dressed up in their nice Air Force blues, and you'll see them on maybe the commercials once in a while. And he said that the base commander was at it, and he had to show up in his blues. And he comes out, and everybody's like, yeah, there's a nuclear warhead here, and we're just waiting on security to get here so we can cordon off the area. And they're like, and everybody was just in shock at this point, and that's what he said. And he said he didn't even know what to think at the time with this incident, but it was such a good story. I was like, oh, my gosh. So because I knew he was the guy, I totally used him to my advantage with my leadership to make me look good, which after they hear this message, they're going to catch me.
You're in trouble.
I'm in trouble, man.
Yeah.
So it's so awesome. But yeah, man, he to experience that and to see what happened and the Air Force changed a lot because of it was definitely interesting. And obviously I wasn't in at the time, I think I was 19 or 20 years old when it happened. So I was probably in Wilkes-Barre or Scranton. I don't remember where I was at the time. I didn't even know it happened until I joined the Air Force. Yeah. But we talk about it every year because we have to go through annual training for nuclear surety. And that plus several other things.
It's part of the training now.
It's part of the training because we have to know these things. And nuclear surety is a huge thing for the Air Force. We want to make sure that the public knows that we are very secure, which they are. They're very, very secure and safe, inherently safe. We have to go through this training in case forever on the Stacks podcast. Yeah, make sure the public knows.
Yeah, they know what's up in Minot.
Yeah,
100,000 feet below ground.
Yeah, 100.
Yeah,
that's 5 stories.
Yeah.
My math is. I
think so.
Critical here.
Yeah, I think it's about. Yeah, it's about 5. It's about 5 stories.
I'm a mathematical genius.
Yeah. So one other quick little thing I want to have you maybe explain. You already explained it to me, but for the people listening, you brought me a couple little gifts. By the way, thank you. You brought me
I had to
a T-shirt and a hoodie with a B-52 bomber on it and some
and an ICBM right above the
nuclear warhead on there, which is cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And then you brought a patch.
Yeah.
Explain the patch.
Air Force is big on heritage, right? And so over time, the Air Force had bombers, long time ago, World War I, II, stuff like that. And so, and I'm not a history buff by any means, but I do pay attention once in a while. Remember Dory.
That's right.
But our patch is, so the 740th Missile Squadron is the squadron I'm a part of. We're the Vulgar Vultures. Right? Doesn't that sound terrible sometimes?
Yeah, it does.
It does, but it's so awesome. I love it. I mean, believe it or not, nobody really curses at work. Everybody's pretty professional for the most part. But
so it doesn't really hold true.
Well, maybe when you're on alert, I think.
Sometimes.
When you're in a different environment, I think it comes out. It does. It does sometimes. It's a Vulgar Vulture. If I remember correctly, it goes back to it used to be a bomb squadron. I wish I had the sheet in front of me. At work, I have it on my computer. I have the history of how the squadron started. And it started as a bomb squadron. That's what I remember so far. But it developed over time, and it became ICBMs. I think at one point they were in Hawaii, if I remember correctly. And then maybe California. I can't remember exactly, but they moved to Minot, and then they went from a bomb squadron to an ICBM squadron, but they were always the Vulgar Vultures. And so the patch in our older uniforms, what we used to wear, we've recently upgraded a lot of them to a new look. But these patches we would wear as our unit patches.
And this is the OG patch.
That is the OG. So I didn't even have that one.
So I have one and you don't?
Well, I have others.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't even know that one existed. And,
Okay.
and that was my favorite one when I saw it, because we have a drawer, like a huge drawer full of a multitude of patches. And we used to wear them on our old uniforms. And we have patches now on our new uniforms, but they're not as nice as that. Not even close to that, because they don't have any color.
Yeah.
It's very limited color. There's rules on how we could do patches and stuff. But our old uniforms used to, have much more color. And that is, I thought, the coolest patch. It's got a vulture holding a resource, nuclear warhead. And these are just drawn up by people we work with most of the time. We get some real artists, and they did a really good job with that.
That's super cool.
Yeah. I kind of want to get a vulture tattoo. I was thinking about it.
I think you should.
I should.
Yeah.
I should.
Maybe I'll get one with you.
Yeah. Well, you can get that one right there.
Yeah.
Put a nuclear warhead on it. But yeah, I work for the 740th Missile Squadron at Minot Air Force Base, and we are the Vulgar Vultures. And I love the squadron. It's the most fun I've ever had.
That's cool.
Yeah, and the people there are just absolutely amazing. So
awesome. What about the coin?
Oh yeah,
What's the significance of the coin?
Okay. Well, significance of the coin I gave you is just so you can open your beers.
Sure, absolutely.
But the significance of coins in general, I don't have my own coins made. Otherwise, I would have gave you one and kind of give you the backstory of that. But usually leadership is the one who does the coins. But coins in the military are a big thing. People love collecting them, and you get them from Air Force leadership across. So especially squadron leadership and above usually have them. Lieutenant colonels usually end up all the way up to the 4 stars. And what they do is they keep these coins, and whenever you've done something to impress that officer, and chiefs will have them too. They're the highest enlisted rank, and a lot of people love getting those too. But especially in huge leadership positions, if you've done something to impress them, they will coin you. That's what we just call a coin. And so people will collect these over time. And I'm going to be honest, I think the highest I have is a colonel, which everybody else will be like, I got like 4, 3, 2 stars, and like, we're talking about flag officers at this point, the guys with the bars that are up here, not here or here, we're talking shoulder pads, baby.
Yeah.
But the tradition is, if you go to, like, say you go out for drinks or something with your buddies, you pull the coin out. You're supposed to carry these with you at all times, your highest one. And if you pull out the highest one and everybody throws it down, and whoever has the highest one doesn't have to pay for a drink.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So far, I've had to pay for all the drinks.
It sounds like
I have not impressed anybody, which I'm okay with. I'm not out to search for coins. I enjoy being.
You're there for a good time.
I'm there for a good time. I'm there to enjoy my job, to be professional when I need to be, and enjoy the company of my fellow peers. So
very cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I had to give you that.
Thank you.
I thought it was an opportunity for you to just do what you got to do, and I know it's not, I didn't autograph it. It's not worth anything if I autograph it. It'd probably be less, but
that's okay.
But you can keep that for heritage purposes.
It'll open a lot of beers here in the studio.
Yeah. If I ever maybe if I ever stay in long enough, and I start to make my own coins, you'll be my first one.
Well,
I'll send it to you.
I better be at this point.
Yeah. My commander, I got coined by my commander, a few months ago, and he numbers his, so he can keep track. So
it's a serious thing.
Yeah, the commanders take it very seriously. The Air Force takes it seriously because, it's a heritage thing, man. They love it. I love it. I think it's a great idea, and it's so much fun,
especially for the free drinks.
Yeah. If you have the top notch one, if you get the chief of staff or even the secretary of defense or secretary of the Air Force or secretary of defense, I don't know if the secretary of defense has one, but if they did, oh my gosh, you'd be golden for life. Yeah, I'd never pay for a drink ever
drinks
again.
Forever.
Drinks forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's tradition.
Super cool, man. Well, thanks again, and thanks for sending that email.
Yeah. The awkward blunt email. Is it spam or is it Devon?
Yeah. I wasn't sure. I honestly wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Again, because we hadn't spoken in years.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you did.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
I'm glad you're here, and this was really cool. It was really cool to learn about what you do, and it's cool, and I appreciate it, and thank you for your service.
Yeah, no, thank you for your support. We can always use it. So
absolutely. All right, Lieutenant Redding,
Yeah.
aka Dory, United States Air Force on the Stacks podcast in the Blue Door Studio. Thanks for joining me. If you'd like to learn more about the On the Stacks podcast, be sure to search the hashtag On the Stacks on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. We'll catch you next time on the Stacks.